Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny.
We're doing
Hi.
episode 23. We're feeling a little wonky today, so bear with us.
Good material. We're the ones feeling
Yeah,
wonky.
the material is okay. The material is good. I wrote it, well, I finished writing it yesterday. I thought I was going to get more. I wrote a poem, but it just didn't.
Yeah.
It was kind of, okay.
And you probably erased it.
I erased it. Yep, I erased all of it. It was the whole page, and I just said, yeah.
Maybe we should just give you pencils with no erasers.
Why?
I would have just ripped the page out. All right.
Don't settle for anything less than everything, right? That's why you erased
When does everything start?
it.
All right. Here we go. This one is entitled Not in Need of Being Needed. So, how did it go? You ask Annie after she bloops into the comfy seat in front of you, her face lit up in new life, a welcomed addition after so many years. Her excitement contagious, yet more controlled, if that's the right word to describe it, as she engages with you. It was good. When I first got there, they were a little standoffish, but the animals took to me right away. After a few days with them, I think that's what got to them to open up to me. By the time I left, they wanted to know how often I would be coming around. I have to admit, I enjoyed the feeling of being needed. You nod and empathize with her on that feeling as you say, we all have that need in some form or another, and is probably the hardest thing to overcome. In a double take of confusion, she asked, come again? What do you mean, overcome? I finally found it again. Sympathizing with her confusion, you unveil your thoughts. You didn't just find that need again, you manifested it so you could see it and overcome it. She interrupts. Why in heaven's sake would I want to overcome it? It's a great feeling. I feel like I have purpose now. Patiently, you explain. Bear with me on this, okay? She reluctantly nods, so you continue. They did not give you purpose. People and things don't give someone purpose. You uncover it within you and then manifest the experience outside you to live. That is what we're all in the process of realizing and what the weavers will assist with in their guidance. One of the most pressing components of that guidance is in addressing our idea of needs. Your feeling of being needed is really your manifestation of your need to be needed. She interrupts again. Their need of me is really my need to be needed? How does that work? Feeling your flow of guidance, you continue. Before you showed up, did they know they needed you? Maybe they had some ideas of what they wanted, but they were living without your involvement. Then you show up with your know how and your need to be needed, showing them how they need you, and they oblige your need with their own. This happening isn't a bad thing. You now get to see it and address it. She interjects, by removing their need of me? You respond, yes, by progressing beyond your needs and your need to be needed. Still confused, she states, I'm still not seeing this. What am I missing? Maintaining your patience, you continue once again. Your need, if allowed to be fostered further, would develop into a cycle of dependency where you lock yourself into virtual stagnation of their need of you. Your wants come and go, but needs, they're self reinforcing into an endless loop of need manifesting need. A good part of what we as weavers do is go into an area of society that needs our services and guide them so that they don't need us anymore. Our goal is to guide our society into one that is no longer in need of our services. She interrupts again. So we guide ourselves out of a job? How is that good for us? Staying in your flow, you elaborate. Being in need is neither good nor bad. It's an experience to learn how to progress out of. Getting locked into a cycle of needing, however, is not for anyone's highest good, nor is it in the highest good for society. A person who recognizes all their needs, learns how to address them, and then rises above them is someone free to focus more on what they want out of life's experience. Now, expand that to a society full of people who have done that, and you have a society free to pursue what it wants. She stops you with, okay, I can see the concept, and it sounds all zen and unicorns, but how does someone not need? You elaborate further. Being in need is a state of mind. And again, it's neither good nor bad. Being locked into it, though, is not good for one's growth or highest good. A need is an anchor to a status quo, but it's also a challenge to progress out of. To answer that challenge, one has to recognize the need and then address it with an eye towards growth. The alternative is to succumb to it, whereby that need becomes part of you in an endless loop of need. If you can see how needs do this to you, then you're ready to begin addressing them for your growth. She nods and asks, okay, again, I get the concept, but how do I not need? You answer, you can take each need and adjust yourself around it until you unravel it to realize it was a belief you latched onto and wouldn't let go of. Doing that with the first need you picked to answer the challenge to will give you confidence to move on to the next one. Eventually, you'll have the confidence to challenge your state of mind in need. She slumps in her seat, still bound in confusion, as she states, that feels so long and drawn out. Here I am, living a life that I thought I was already progressing in, and now you're telling me I have to unwind that life of need. It just feels so daunting. Can't I just take a pill or something? Or, I know, you could wield some of that magic on me to cure all of my needs. Shaking your head, you smile and respond, oh no, that's not my monkey in your circus. You put them there, not for someone else to cure, but for you to learn from. One alternative approach to the one I mentioned is to go straight to your state of mind and address your need to need. Why do you need to need anything? She ponders that and asks, I don't know. Why do I need? You settle into the flow of your guidance and explain. Let's look at your current situation as a live example. You said you enjoy being needed. Why is that? She goes with your flow and answers, well, it gives me a sense of purpose. Yeah, but do they have the right to give you a purpose? I think they offered you a purpose only after you manifested it from your need to have purpose. But why do you need to have something or someone give you purpose? She thinks for a moment before saying, to have something meaningful to strive for and a place where I fit. Okay, but why the need for something or someone to give it to you? Deeper in thought, she asks, how else would I get a purpose? I find someone or something that requires what I have to offer. You stop her to ask, you mean they need you? She sees your point and says, well, yeah. Their need of something I can provide that I want to do gives me purpose. You nod and continue. So, your need is dependent on their need. That is the endless loop of dependency, and a self-fulfilling one at that. Blocked by confusion, she asked, how else do I find a purpose? People will always need something, and there will always be others who will help them meet their needs. It's what ties us all together, right? You nod and say, yep, into that self-reinforced, endless loop of need. We're a society of need addicts and need suppliers, feeding on itself. Now, not only confused, Annie has added trouble to her appearance. She questions this line of thought. I thought our needing each other is what connected us. Are you saying it's actually hurting us? You empathize with her again and say, it can hurt us if we come to rely on it instead of seeking a way to rise above it. In the time before, we were neck deep within its hold when we got out of that situation. But even now, we're still chest deep. The situation we find ourselves in now is much different though, because we have lots of assistance from GCOS and the Weavers. She interjects, how are they, I mean we, gonna help? I'm with GCOS and I don't even know. You answer directly. You won't know. None of us will until we come to face it and accept that we have this obstacle to our expansion, which, by the way, you're doing right now by asking questions about it and not closing yourself off to it. Still confused, but less troubled, she asks, okay, if what you're saying about this cycle of dependency is true, how do we get out of it? Continuing on, you tell her, we, as in the Weavers, break out of that cycle first, so we can show the others that it can be done. Okay, but how? She asks. You respond, we prove to ourselves that we don't need. She looks at you as if that isn't an answer and restates her question. But how? I know I need to eat and drink, otherwise I wither and die. How do I get where that doesn't happen? You pose a question for her. When have you known a time when you didn't need to eat? Without much thought, she answers, never. I did a fast once for like a week, but I couldn't wait to get back to eating. You nod and say, yeah, because you had all the intention to get back to eating. You probably didn't even consider the idea that maybe, just maybe, you don't need to eat to live. You learned when you were a baby that you needed to eat to live. That's when the dependency started, and it was reinforced as you got older. Whenever you got withdrawal symptoms, you fed the beast because that's what you were taught. And there were plenty of stories telling you what would happen to you if you didn't eat. Plus, you probably had plenty of symptoms when you didn't eat to never want to try that again. But did you ever get really sick for like a week and not want to eat anything? She thinks back and says, yeah, a few times. One even lasted like 10 days. So, you continue, did you eat anything at all during those 10 days? Reliving that memory, she answers, I tried to eat toast twice, but I had a stomach bug, so it just came right back up. So no, I didn't eat anything. All I had was water, and I couldn't even hold down ginger ale. Why? How much weight did you lose? Thinking back again, she answers, 6.25 pounds. You chuckle and say, you remember it that precisely? And in pounds? We haven't used pounds in years. She defends her answer. I was a teenager, and I was concerned about my weight back then, like a lot of girls were. What's your point? You now make your point. You were sick and didn't eat for 10 days, and all you lost was 6 pounds. How did a sick and starving body recover from 10 days of that and only lose 6 pounds? If food is so necessary every day when you're healthy, how is it you can go 10 days without any when you're not healthy but sick and yet still live and recover? You mentioned fasting. I once did a fast for over a week, and here's what I remember. See if any of these observations ring a bell. The first day, I was hungry and developed a headache. That continued into the second day, and I felt weaker. By the third day, the hunger and headache had all but disappeared, although I still felt somewhat weak. But I distinctly remember the fourth day. No hunger, no headache, and my energy was back. By the 5th day, I was back to doing all the things I had been doing before my fast, with just as much energy, maybe even more. On the 6th day, I actually felt great. I had lost about, I don't know, 10 pounds, but I was happy about that. And I started wondering what food had been doing to my body and my mind. Around that time, I noticed my weight had leveled off. My energy was elevated, and my thinking was exceptionally clear. So I extended my fast to see what would happen. And I found that trend continued. She interjects. So why did you stop? You sigh and say, I got bored. And I figured I learned everything I was open to learn at that point. But it did make me not want to go back to what my diet was before. And the seed of suspicion about food had been planted. At a later time, I just decided to start reducing my food intake slowly, not on a fast, but a permanent change. I had no plan. When the impulse to reduce my food hit, I just did it and maintained it until the next one hit. Curious, she asked, so how did that end? You cock your head sideways and ask her, when was the last time you personally saw me eat? Scanning her memories before she replies, huh, I can't think of any time recently. I vaguely remember seeing you eating some of your tapioca pudding, but that had to be like months ago. You nod and say, yep, my diet pudding. What do you mean diet? She asked. You shrug. It may as well have been water because it had no calories. She squinted her eyes before asking, what? Did you mess with your reppy? You smile and reply, funny you should mention that, but no, not for that. I poofed it so that it tastes and feels like my pudding, but with no calories. You mean like you do with crystals? Yep, it still feeds what's left of my addiction, but I know when I do eat it, there's no substance to it. This is my way of acclimating my mind to a life without need. Seeking clarification, she asked. So, you don't eat anything else? Not for many months. When I get the urge to eat, I just do what I did when I fasted. Find something, take my mind off of it. And usually it goes away within moments. When those urges start occurring more frequently, I just have some of my ghost tapioca, and then I'm good. My need for it, though, is diminishing, down to maybe once a month. Astonished, she asked, so you haven't eaten real food in what, 4 or 5 months? You nod, and she responds, wow, I never would have known if you hadn't told me. If that's true, and I know you wouldn't lie about it, can't we do something similar to the replicators? You raise your eyebrows look, in a look she's onto something and say, that's that's why I said earlier, it was funny you mentioned it. As part of the health drive years ago, the replicators were modified to produce only healthy food. No sugar, no harmful ingredients, and reduced calories. Curious, she asked, how reduced? Minimum 40%, but some as much as 75%, like bread, rice, and other staples. The public was told, but since the taste was as good or better, and they were getting healthier, no one seemed to mind. I think it may be time for another modification. She nods and says, sounds like it, but what about our other needs, like my need to be needed? You pause to gather your flowing thoughts again and answer, we each have to go through this individually. There is no script to follow. Ultimately, we choose to need or not. Remember, being in need is a state of mind. Let's take your current situation again, working with the people who handle the animals. Your current view is you find purpose in their need of you. You would probably go about doing all you can to take care of their needs with the animals, feeling joy and sense of fitting in by doing what others can't do as well as you. But would they be growing by you being there and taking care of their needs? Maybe some, although that's limited by how much you're willing to share with them. due to your need to be needed. Your purpose is for self-satisfaction, which comes from their need of you. So that means you probably aren't motivated to reduce their need of you. More likely, you'd want to secure your place with them by maintaining their need of you or even increasing it. But again, are they growing by this arrangement, or are you just taking care of their needs? Another way to go about this, which requires a different view, is to seek a higher purpose, one not given to you by another, but one you find within yourself. That higher purpose is to endeavor to improve the situation around you wherever you go for the highest good of all. But you have to will that over your own self-satisfaction, using no one or no thing as your crutch or excuse. If someone or something impedes your progress in this, you see yourself through it. You don't do it for credit or accolades. You do it because that is your will. No one is above you because your will doesn't answer to them. And the only ones below you are those who haven't yet found their will to rise, for whom you offer guidance in finding their will as part of your higher purpose. Applying this view to your current situation, you don't look to the people for a purpose. You bring your own. This entails guiding, weaving, and showing anyone how to become self-sufficient and find their will to rise. Yes, that means training yourself out of a job, because that is for the highest good, which is worthy of someone striving for a higher purpose. By teaching and guiding anyone willing to step up for your input, they not only learn to handle animals, but if you weave it with the highest good at heart, they also learn concepts that they can apply to other areas of their lives to lift themselves up. You become a high tide, lifting all boats, with the ultimate goal of a society that rises above all needs and begins to live and experience at once. That is you allowing your higher purpose to lift you from the experience of living as the small you to rise into living the experience of the big, expansive you. Now, imagine yourself with this higher purpose weaving from the ground floor up to create a society full of people who find and allow that same higher purpose from within, all striving to improve the situations around them wherever they go for the highest good of all. Is that a purpose worthy of supplanting one centered around self-satisfaction and a need to be needed? That is the decision you have before you. Staring off to the side, lost in thought, all Annie can muster to say is, I've had fleeting thoughts of living in a society where everyone got along and worked toward making society better, since I could remember. But I thought others would come along and make it so. You grin into a knowing smile and say, having those visions is what calls to you to become a higher weaver and accept your higher purpose. You couldn't see yourself being one of those bringing about that vision because you hadn't accepted its offer yet. You may not fully realize it, but you have now accepted that offer. You allowing yourself to see your involvement provides all the confirmation you need. Her stare, now piercing into your eyes, shows acceptance and determination as she declares, this feels right and true, like all the pieces just clicked into place, and I can sense my belonging in it. I don't need them to need me to do it. I want to do it. Realizing your own joy in seeing her expansion, you unveil more thoughts. You'll know you've accepted this when it pulls you from your seclusion and you look no further than yourself to pull things together. Your focus shifts from what you need in getting things done to what others need so you can guide them to rise above it. You will still find yourself falling into need sometimes. Don't let that frustrate you. Just relax and catch yourself when you do so you can question it. Anything you feel you can't live without, is a need and is a challenge for you to overcome. It won't go away until you address it, unlike a want that comes and goes that you can live without. The goal of that higher purpose is to raise yourself until there's nothing you can't live without, and you're living an experience free to pursue what you want. She nods and welcomes in that thought before saying, free of dependency and my need to be needed. He nods with you and says, yep, the way we were meant to live, sovereign and free.
Yeah. Yeah, that need to be needed is one that, I still am working with personally, because it makes you feel important, it makes you feel valuable.
Well, think
That
about
need to be needed.
what you're doing when you need to be needed. You want someone else to be in need of what you can offer.
Right, which is
Right.
lessening them, and that's not good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want what's not best for them. You want them to be in need.
Right. That's where you're getting your value as a human being at that moment when you do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I've always raised my kids wanting them to, if something were to happen to me, they would have as much as I could have given them up to that point to be okay without me. Like, it was my job to basically go, go, go. I love you. Come back when you choose to, but not because you need me. And I don't know if it's because I grew up with the opposite of that. But I've always wanted my kids to just be independent.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And this talks about basically we should be training everyone
To not need us.
to not need you. Basically training anyone who's willing to be your replacement.
It's interesting because of our society so intertwined with the need and the needing other people. As you shift out of that, the connection to others then is not out of need, like reaching out just to say hi or reaching out to share energy without reaching out just because you need something.
Right.
And how many of our contacts are because somebody needs something, and how many of our contacts are somebody just saying, hey, I just calling to say hey, or just texting to see what's
Just want
going
to be
on.
with you. Just want to be around you. Just
Yeah.
want to, just spend some time together.
Yeah. And it's starting to shift. I mean, there's movement there as you come out of it, but it is very much, there's this like middle ground between this shift, where everybody around you is recalibrating to you getting out of that needing to be needed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even things that we say we want. You want something, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you go ask someone for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they answer in the positive, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
If they answer in the negative and you don't like it,
mm-hmm.
and it causes you, some kind of
some sort,
change or whatnot, you got to wonder what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
the issue is that a lot, like you were saying, a lot of people contact other people because they want something.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's, I just want to be around your energy, they want something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When do you want to be around someone so that in case you might be able to shine the light on something?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's, just to be around them with your energy, yeah, maybe they're tapping into it,
Mm-hmm.
but you decide how long and
Mm-hmm.
how it flows, and you can engage them in conversation to see how open they are to things.
Mm-hmm.
So we most of us want to stay away from direct confrontation, but we're okay with drama.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we exchange, and anytime you're in the space with more other beings, you're going to exchange energy. But it's interesting that most of the time there's some impetus to reach out to that other being, and typically it's based on a need, based on you're lacking something, you're feeling lonely, or you need assistance or an idea. It's like in my mind right now I'm trying to envision interactions, which I have some interactions with people where it's not out of a need or an obligation. It's
Mm-hmm.
just
That's hard to say.
it's just a connection.
It's hard to say today because everybody needs.
Mm-hmm.
And our needing is a state of mind. If you need anything, then you're in the state of mind of needing.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you can't have true freedom while you're in need, because that need is going to drive your behavior, at least some of your behavior. If you need to eat all the time, which all of us believe we do, then we're spending a good amount of our time getting food, preparing food, eating food,
Thinking about food,
socializing around food. And look what we've done. Our society is built around food.
Yeah.
Food is not bad. The food is not the bad thing. It's our need of it. A lot of people say, well, we have to eat. If we don't eat, well, I just talked about it. Does that make it true? It depends what's true to you.
Well,
I've already proven
Mm-hmm.
your witness. I don't eat anywhere near the amount I should be eating to maintain the weight I have. And it hasn't been just for a week or two.
No, it's been for months.
Tell them what I eat.
Yeah. Do you really want me to tell them what I eat?
Yeah, tell them what I eat.
Orgain protein drinks. 4 maybe a day?
I have 4 a day.
Yeah, and watermelon now. That's it.
Watermelon.
Yeah, and water.
And water. That's it. I don't need anything else. And I haven't before that. Instead of watermelon just came back in season.
It was dates.
Dates. I'd have 1 date after each meal, after each protein shake. And it's just a simple plant-based protein shake.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how long have I been doing that?
Since late January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my weight is still the same.
But the interesting thing is too is how many things we think we need. We think we need to work out. We think we need to sleep 8 hours a day or whatever, 8 hours a night or 7 hours a night. We think we need to, there's so many things when you think about it, which we think we need. Yeah, it's very interesting. And when you challenge those things, you don't necessarily need them.
Yeah.
At least not in the way you think you do.
Yeah, because even with my reduced calories, I mean, because I used to be a personal trainer, I know kind of the calories that I need to maintain a certain weight. But it's way below. It's not just a little below it. It's way below it. And it's been that way for months. And yet I still go out and cut the grass. I still we still go for 1.5-hour walks.
Yeah, you got plenty of energy.
Yeah. And now I'm reducing. I just reduced I was doing, at one point when I first started, the protein shakes were 30 grams of protein per shake. Then I reduced it to 25, and now and then I went down to 20. I matched you, 20. That was 2 scoops.
Yeah.
And now I'm down to 15 grams. 15 grams 4 times a day. So we're only talking about 60 grams of protein when I should be eating probably 150 grams of protein a day, and I'm eating 60.
Yeah, and it was funny because years ago when we first met, your belief was if you didn't have X amount of protein, you'd have headaches.
I'd have
and
headaches.
every time you didn't have that much protein, you got a headache.
I got a headache.
And so it was like, but over the time where you've reduced it, you've let go of that belief, and you don't get the headaches.
Nope.
No matter if you up protein or not. It's really interesting. I mean, it's very interesting how powerful our mind is and what our beliefs are.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm unwinding right now. It's not easy. No, especially when she's eating salads and stuff like that. It's difficult.
I try to eat when you're not around.
I know, and I appreciate that. But this is my challenge that I say, okay, I'm ready for it. Not everyone's ready for it. That doesn't mean you're less. It just means you'll get there. But eventually, if you're going to find sovereignty, everyone's going to have to get above all their needs.
And choose what we want, but not need it.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I'm never going to eat again, or I'm going to get down to where I never have to eat again. I'm saying I'm not going to have to. I'm not going to need to eat. and I can add it back when I want to, and I won't be so tied to it.
Yeah, and if you kind of look at any need, we talked a little bit about this when you wrote this the other day, but anything that you think you need then creates a scarcity, a fear of not having it. Yeah. And so if you think you need toilet paper, you're gonna have a fear that you don't, if you think you need food, you're gonna have a fear that you're not gonna have it. So those are those things that allow power over when there's that real adamant belief in that need.
And no one's doing it to you.
Yeah.
You are doing it to you. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. No one's making
for it to it. And,
right, yeah. but we were born into it.
Yeah.
From the time we were.
Yeah, we were taught the food pyramid, for example, on food. How many servings you needed to have.
And we found that a lot of people have finally found out that that's all crap.
Yeah.
They told us, oh, you couldn't eat, don't eat eggs. Oh, you need to eat eggs. Don't eat eggs. Yeah. Don't drink milk. Oh, drink milk. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
So there's a lot of crap out there, and we were born into it, and we've accepted it. We never really pushed back. And most people that do fast, just like I did, the intention was only to not eat for so long, and then, but it was during that time, the last fast that we got, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So that got the ball rolling.
Yeah, we talked a lot about food in this, but it's any need.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
That's just an example.
That's just an example.
Yeah.
That's because most people can
relate to that.
Well, because everyone, you think about it, air, water, and food, sleep. I've known people who sleep 2 or 3 hours a night, and that's it. And they do fine. But I've actually stayed awake for over a week.
I probably get an average of 4 or 5. Yeah. Since I meditate, I don't need to sleep, and sometimes I don't even know if I need to breathe all the time. I'll be like, oh, I should take a breath. I don't even know how long it had been since I last took a breath, which is kind of strange sometimes.
And it's interesting, y'all. I'll have that sensation, but if somebody says hold your breath, then it's like I can't hold it for very long because it's like I know that, oh my gosh, I need to breathe. But if I'm doing something else and I'm not thinking about it, I could sit there for a long time and not take a breath.
Yeah, food is kind of a weird one. You can go longer, but eventually you kind of lose patience with it. But breathing, you get to see you're actually have to breathe. You feel the compulsion to breathe.
Yeah.
Now, is it really true, or is it just a learned thing?
Well, I don't know. Yogananda would be in a meditative state, and people would think he was dead because he was literally not breathing for hours upon hours at a time. And then he would come back and be right back to, everything. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I believe we don't need anything. Nothing. We don't need anything. These are things that we've latched onto, and then we propagated it throughout our species. And now we push it on to the next generation, the next generation, and next generation. We're not bad for doing it. It's what we know, and we teach what we know.
Plus, like you said to me the other day, you said when you go to give it up, you have to have not any doubt about it, though. Because it's like if there's any doubt about it, it's going to have ramifications for you, and you're gonna really suffer.
Yeah.
But if you have to get to the point where
you don't really know it,
you're not gonna.
You're gonna find all kinds of reasons why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, I had to pee 5 minutes ago, and then I told myself, you don't have to pee, and now I don't have to pee.
Yeah. That's right. There you go.
Oh, gosh. That's,
And that's true, too. I've had that where I've had to go so bad, been on an airplane. And then we land, get out the airplane, walking down the terminal, getting ready to get on the next airplane, realize I didn't go to the bathroom. I had to go so bad while I was on the plane that I didn't think I was going to make it.
Yeah.
They're just impulses.
Yeah.
Are you your body? Remember way back in the beginning of the manifesto?
Yeah.
and I listed out those things. The first one was you are not your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one was your body is not you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's that vehicle.
Yeah. But we equate our bodies with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we are living as our body, then we have all those needs.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If you can pull yourself away from thinking you are your body, then you can now start evaluating those needs and decide which ones you don't want to abide by anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
It is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It may not seem like it because that's what we were taught.
Mm-hmm.
You're taught in school, you're taught from your parents, you're taught from
Science.
family and friends, and it's all reinforced and it's all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
How in the world would you ever break away from it if everyone else is eating?
Mm-hmm. But you know, I mean, what has popped up twice now. You know, even in the Bible, it talks about Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days. It was like, did he eat the whole time? You don't know. You know what I mean? There's even references to longer periods of time, and these people would be on these ships for months, you know, crossing the ocean. Where did they get up? I mean, yes, they took some stores with them, but you know, you're going like they couldn't eat like we eat and sleep like we sleep. To you know.
Well, I think if we had eyes open and willing to question things, we could go around and start finding examples of things that, hey, wait a minute, we just reasoned it off.
Right.
We just reason these things off, and so that we can remove them, so we don't have to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of us do. We do things so that we don't feel uncomfortable anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But I believe expansion could be uncomfortable if you're stuck in status quo and stuck in a need to need. Because anyone out there could probably argue with me and say, no, we need to eat, we need to drink, and
their reality.
they're right. They're right. In their view, they are absolutely right.
Because it's their truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we talked about in past ones.
But I'm not waiting on anyone. I'm doing this on my own. I mean, I'm manifesting. Oh, well, we already said, I mean, we're all manifesting right now. I'm choosing to take a sharp left turn and play around with it because I want to know. I'm not going to wait for someone to come tell me. I don't know what's going to develop, but the more I'm finding, the more I'm going, okay. Because I thought maybe there's a chance after a month of that, I'd have the headaches and I would have lost so much weight that I would go, I need to go back on and up my protein back to at least 25 grams per serving.
And your mood's the same. Like some people I know that if they don't
No,
eat,
it's not. Oh, sorry.
if they don't eat, they get really crabby. You know, it's like
I do not.
You hide it well.
Shut up. Yeah. So this is me. I'm not pushing it on anyone. I'm not trying to sell the idea. I'm not defending it. This is something that is my own experiment. In my view, doesn't impact anyone else, and I have the freedom to try it. And I have the curiosity and will to do it. So if she shows up on the video and I'm not here, then I didn't make it, okay?
You're bad. Oh.
And then
or you bloop somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, if that happens, if that happens, then I can break everything. Remember that one episode I talked about? If I manifested a crystal right now into my hand, okay, think about what that would break. Think about
beliefs in a lot of things. Yeah.
Think about what that would break. Yeah, a lot of people would still go, I don't believe it. It's some kind of trick.
Yeah.
But if I went on Joe Rogan or something like that, and I manifested a crystal right there in front of Joe Rogan,
and he saw it,
and he saw it, and he goes, here, do this, or okay, let me throw something out at you that you would never even think of, and I did it, and he was like, oh my gosh, like he does, you know.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't find any way to refute this. What would happen? Yes, there would be naysayers.
There'd be a ton of naysayers.
But think about though, there would be enough people out of the millions of
Yes.
viewers he has
Mhm.
that
Especially nowadays.
people would start going, oh my gosh, can you imagine if we didn't need to eat, drink, sleep, fart, poop? We didn't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Think about it. Our society would change. We wouldn't have to work.
Mhm.
We wouldn't have to do anything that we think we need to do.
Mhm. The birds singing
Our
together.
whole society would be different.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would take a while to cascade through because you still have naysayers who, I don't want to see that. I don't.
Mhm. I mean, we have, even in the belief systems that we have the people that think, oh, well, I need a house with electricity, with a car, and then you have these people that go off and live in the wilderness and they don't have all of that. You know, they've gone, their needs are very different. So all of our needs are different, and it's based on our belief systems.
Well, here's what I believe. I believe our let's just say some G-men
Mm.
from departments within our government have done secret tests
Mhm.
to find out what the bare minimum is for a lot of things, including all those things we talked about, the
Mhm.
necessities, food, water. They've done, and then they use drugs on them to find if they can expand it.
Mhm.
And they found a lot of stuff about what we're capable of, and they never released it,
Even though we paid for it.
even though we paid for it from being the taxpayers.
Mhm.
I'm saying that information is going to find its way into our society.
Mhm.
It's time.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's time. It's going to happen. I think there's more people starting to ask the questions about these things, and the drive, the will of a person can't be stopped from some 3D thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think it's building now. It's not just, oh, people want to get out of their house. No, people are starting to look around. They're starting to question about, do I really need to go work that long in an office, or can I work from home? Can I start doing? That's where it starts.
Well, and even all the logic stuff of why is this one you're able to do this in this place, but in this place you can't. Where is that? I mean, none of this is making sense. So it's making people go, wait a minute. You know, what is this? What do we really need to do?
Yeah.
Who's doing what? Why?
There's going to be so much information that's going to be released in a very short period of time once it starts.
That's already kind of started.
It's already starting
yeah.
because some documents have already been released
Mhm.
and some more information. We already got some things on certain parts of governments that were flat out lying,
Mhm.
flat out.
And the media.
And the media, flat out lying.
Mhm.
There's no ifs, ands, or there's no other way to look at it. They were lying. They had a narrative, they were pushing it, and they knew it wasn't true.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, gonna be interesting.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm off.
Are you off? You're done. Your wind up is down. Oh.
Power down.
All right. Well, that's it for
That's
tonight. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.